Let's take a look. Let's do our book talk drama. He started out as writing anti-Muslim articles as an edgy atheist. He's done it all. Andy Ngo he has really done it all. Okay, so let me give you guys a brief overview on the tea that we're about to get into. Okay, are we ready? So here's a history of the scandal. In June 2020, an author known as Taylor B. Barton came onto the queer fantasy and sci-fi scene. 2 of their books were published, The Ninth Life and Full Moon in Leo. However, they were soon accused of racist bullying by their fellow authors. God, the racism in the literary community is mind-blowing. It's like there's just always racist bullying happening. Self-identifying as trans, Barton then took up another pen name, Brooklyn Ray, and offered an apology. Barton later became defensive after they were dropped by their publisher and agent, and both books were quietly shuffled out of print. The following year, a new author, Jupiter Wyse, appeared on the literary scene. They frequently alluded to their Latinx roots, identifying themselves as QT-POC, queer trans person of color. However, internet sleuthing, all done by an anonymous ex-user, noticed that Barton and Wyse used similar Christmas trees, cats, and zodiac signs in their images, revealing that Wyse was actually a creation of Barton, who is white. Subsequently, Wyse was dropped by their agent in a public expose for misrepresenting their racial identity and publishing history. Then, in 2022, Freydis Moon emerged into the queer erotic horror spotlight, publishing their first 2 books in the Gideon Testament series. As they prepared for the release of their next book in the series, a beta reader noticed in the drafts that Moon had sent that they resembled pages from an old Wyse draft. Ella Porter compiled the evidence together to substantiate the claim that Moon is the disgraced Taylor B. Barton who went by a number of other pen names. The other pen names it's currently believed that Freydis has used include Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, Brooklyn Ray, Jupiter Wyse, Hunter Taylor, Bailey Greene, Cordelia Lynne, Saint Harlowe, and Hunter Lewellyn. What are these fucking names? Freydis' former literary agent confirmed that Freydis operated under various aliases and worked with multiple literary agents under different ethnicities. Ah! Holy shit. Okay, that's a good enough overview. Let's watch withcindy. Give us all the deets.
Is that they just showed their hand in the background right there while using a brown skin tone emoji. Like, is that emoji? What really gags me is that they just showed their hand in the background right there while using a brown skin tone emoji. Like, is that emoji supposed to represent your hands? Because it's actually a closer match to your cat.
Am I a gamer? Hell yeah, I am.
Picture
What's
this.
up, gamers?
It's 420 and I'm a scumbag stoner celebrating this sacred holiday. I end up passing out for 24 hours. When I finally come to consciousness the next day, I open my phone to a wall of voice memos from my friend ranting about the latest person exposed on book Twitter. I'm like, bro, I'm barely sober right now. Who are all these people? The basic rundown that I have learned is that there is a white author who has been pretending to be a person of color and created multiple fake accounts and fake friendships with other authors and reviewers for over 5 years. And no, it's not Kate Corinne this time.
What is up? What is up with these crazy ass white authors? Truly, it's like they're doing better fictional work in their real lives than they're doing in their books. Like, I thought Kate Corinne was the tippity top of this mountain. There is so much.
The different names of this person include Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, Brooklyn Ray, Jupiter Wyse, Stacey Anthony, Hunter Taylor, Hunter Lewellyn, Cordelia Lynne, Bailey Greene, Saint Harlowe, and Freydis Moon. You know that scene in the Into the Spider-Verse movie where Spider-Man just walks into a room full of other Spider-Man? That's the vibe that this list gives off.
And I'm sorry, but those sound like white ass names, okay? Those sound like the Lakin Blaken type of names.
Cross paths with this person because I'm not really active on Twitter besides just logging in for a few minutes and then bouncing off. So if you are also new to this, you and I will be on this journey together. So the latest iteration of this constantly evolving person is Freydis Moon. They present themselves as a trans non-binary Latinx person. And before you come for me for saying Latinx, I'm asking you to put your hands away from the keyboard because people always argue in my comments that Latinx is not a real term. I'm gonna save you time and energy by reminding you that every time I say the term Latinx, that's because the person that I'm talking about referred to themselves as Latinx. I'm just going by what their label is. If you have a problem with that, go take it up with them before derailing my video in the comments because this is not the takeaway here. Anyway, Freydis Moon's books include The Gideon Testaments, Exodus 23, and With a Vengeance. I believe they're an indie author, but their previous personas have been traditionally published. So one would question that maybe they're indie now, not due to choice, but probably because they got blacklisted a couple years ago. What opened the floodgates for this particular persona to be exposed among the history that they had for previous exposure was when this writer and someone who used to be a friend of theirs named L. Porter posted a thread on Twitter while I was high and conked out and I missed the entire thing, but I am now catching up and I will link to the thread in my description. But they basically put together evidence that links Freydis Moon to Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, and Jupiter Wyse. Now you may be wondering, who the hell are all these people? This is also where I'm going to link an article back in 2021 that details how Taylor Barton was accused of racism and bullying back in 2020. They then rebranded themselves as a Latinx author named Jupiter Wyse. Again, they call themselves Latinx, so don't come for me. Don't annoy the messenger, okay? This is not my discourse to be a part of. What I will share is the highlights from this article just to bring you up to speed, but be warned that as we dive further into this rabbit hole, your panties are gonna be in a twist for how long this has been going on. Fortunately, my panties are never in a twist, thanks to today's sponsor, Parade. The only thing smoother than my ad transitions are my underwear and bra. I've been wearing their stuff for almost half a year now, and I
10 out of 10.
So much more than the other brands that I've worn before, especially when it comes to bras. I typically never wear bras because I hate how the wires dig into my skin. But a lot of the stuff that Parade has
the fucking rosary, are you serious? I love how
bra just because I really like the color. And
I love how my Latin community members were about to come for her until she was like, "Don't come for me."
So it's a lot more comfortable, and the fabric is
how is Cindy on Book Talk? She does seem too normal. She always gives off the vibes of like, what the fuck am I doing here? Who are these people that I'm in the same industry as? But you know what? It's actually, it's given her great content for a really successful YouTube channel.
Are running out, and now let's get back to the video. All right, so let me
because she's a stoner.
Highlights from the article. First, we got to go all the way back with the first alias that we know of for this person named Taylor B. Barton. They are the trans author of The Ninth Life and other books with queer and fantasy themes. They also wrote and published several sci-fi books using their middle name Taylor Brooke, but under the name Brooklyn Ray, they also published queer paranormal romance and erotica. So there's 3 different names here: Taylor B. Barton, Taylor Brooke, and Brooklyn Ray. These are all the same person, just writing under different pen names. Now this is pretty normal.
Book Talk is wild like that. If this is your first foray into Book Talk drama, welcome. I have now started to cover as much Book Talk drama as I can. There seems to be new insane Book Talk drama every other week. It blows my mind. I was not introduced to Book Talk drama until the Kate Corain scandal, which is fucking insane, and I covered it for 2 hours on an old VOD. But ever since then, I'm tuned in. I'm locked in
when it comes to authors just writing under different names, because a lot of times if an author is interested in writing different genres, then they might have a specific pen name for that specific genre. So there's nothing wrong with Taylor having a bunch of pen names. What became more concerning is in June of 2020, Taylor had a bunch of accusations against them where multiple people on Twitter came forward to share their personal experiences of being bullied or mistreated by them. Several people said that Taylor had said or did things that made them feel persecuted because of their race or gender identity. The article doesn't show any specific allegations when this came out. However, I am inclined to believe this just because of the multiple people that talked about this and everything else that you'll see in the timeline moving forward. And as well, during the time when they faced a bunch of accusations, they came forward with an apology. And most of the time, you don't really apologize for being racist unless you were actually racist. So this is their apology that they posted. I've made mistakes. I'm listening. I'm learning, growing, and taking steps to interrogate my own internalized racism. This part here is kind of weird because internalized racism implies that you are a person of color that's racist against your own race, and that's something that you internalize. But at the time that they posted this apology, they were a random white person. So I think this was just like a misuse.
My internalized racism.
Use of words here, but maybe they were like, you know what, I should run along with this idea. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Anger has always been my shield, but vulnerability is the only way I will ever learn to grow. The conversations surrounding me, my actions, the hurt I've caused, and my missteps is important and necessary. Transparency in this industry about pain, abuse, and racism is desperately needed, and I'm thankful for the chance to become a better ally and author. I'm actively reaching out to those I've hurt with apologies, but I know that isn't enough. The only way I can make this right is by stepping back, listening to critique from my community, and doing the work to become a better person. Apologies are hollow, but I intend to make good on this. As a start, I've made a one-time $500 donation to the Trevor Project. To follow, all future royalties I earn off sales of The Ninth Life will be donated to the Trevor Project as well. To those I've hurt, I'm so sorry. I hope I can make this right somehow. As many people of their demographic before their time, they issue an apology as well as take a break from social media, or so we think. The weird thing to me was that they donated to the Trevor Project, which is an LGBT plus charity, when their accusations were about racism, especially towards Black people. Meanwhile, the Trevor Project isn't Black owned. So again,
I didn't even think about that. They're just like, oh, it's all the same. They can't even, you know what it is? I wonder how long the grift had been going before that, where they couldn't keep track of like, wait, what grift am I running now? Okay, am I trans and what race am I again? Fuck. Okay, I'll just give to the Trevor Project.
Kind of like a random donation to make, but because of everything that went down, their agent dropped them and their publishers dropped them. This is, again, more damning evidence that the accusations against them were correct, considering that professional publishers had dropped them. And if you know anything about racism and AI 4K 1080p, they're very, lax about this kind of stuff. So after receiving negative reactions to their apology post and getting dropped by publishers and their agent, they went to their alternate Twitter account under the name Brooklyn Ray, and this is where they basically had a meltdown,
the whitest white girl
complained about what was going on. They called out other trans authors that they claimed to have engaged and encouraged their bullying behaviors, including Aiden Thomas, who will be referenced later on. And it turns out that they didn't actually mean their apology, because they said, I apologized, 1, because my team asked me to, and 2, because I wanted to move on and make amends since there was obviously hurt feelings. But hurt feelings is not abuse. Discomfort is not abuse. Stop watering the word down. They continue to lash out against other people who are in their replies being like, why are you doing this? No one is supporting you. And they say, that's fine. I don't give a fuck about support. I give a fuck about every single person who claimed I was a toxic abuser being held accountable for their own toxic abuse. They also tried to appeal to sympathy by implying that the loss of their career would affect their health and well-being. They said, I'm just trying to pay my bills. I'm just trying to save the substantial income I just lost so I can stay in my apartment, feed my pets, pay for my medication, and survive. I'm not asking for anyone to support me, but goddamn, please just leave me alone. If you don't like me, if you don't support me, don't follow my social media and don't buy my book. Block me, mute me, don't seek me out. I have literally nothing left, and I only came back to this space because I don't know what else to do besides beg. I resisted saying anything else because I know how this goes. I know how Twitter works. I didn't want to fan the flames. I wanted to leave this space, work on my books, and move the hell on. There's nothing I can say to change anything, but please, I'm gone. Let me be gone. But the thing is, they were not gone, because after deleting those 3 accounts and dropping off of social media, later down the road, here comes Jupiter Wyse, who is this newcomer writer who also got a literary agent for a new book. But every now and then, people on book Twitter do have brain cells after all, because they were able to put the pieces together and figure out that Jupiter was the same person as Taylor. The way that they did this was by pulling up photos and analyzing how the backgrounds were similar to Taylor, as well as pulling up astrological charts. And when astrology is getting brought up in this, shit is about to get serious. This is how far deep we are in. So here's some of the evidence in question. An anonymous account had posted under the pen name Brooklyn Ray, Taylor shared photos of their Christmas tree on Instagram. The same ornaments appear on a tree posted from Jupiter Wyse's Instagram account.
Bro, the internet detecting is next level, truly. You can't get away with shit. Somebody will figure your ass out. I've seen Mahout's work. Wait, who's that again? This is how Kevin O'Leary looks you up after he sees your resume. Yeah, this is what Kevin O'Leary's doing. Hassan's Mahout. Wait, Hassan's mod. Oh, is Hassan's mod working on this level? Reminds me of the documentary Don't Fuck with Cats on the internet. Yes. Now, sometimes people on the internet will armchair detective in a way that's harmful with like true crime cases, but in other ways, M Hood. Okay, M Hood, not Mahood. But in other ways, they will expose grifters like Freydis Moon.
A very similar black cat appears on gray carpeting on both Brooklyn Ray and Jupiter Wyse's Instagram accounts. Talk about the cat out of the bag, literally. Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse share the same zodiac chart. The first image is a screen grab of Taylor's co-star account using their former handle, Tay Salian. This is why you cannot lie to queer people, because they will pull up your star sign and clock you right away. Maybe you can argue that everybody deserves a second chance, but you can't really argue that everybody deserves a second chance under a completely different racial identity, because Jupiter Wyse was an author who claimed to be Latin.
I can't stop laughing at how this white author was busted because of zodiac signs, because of astrology.
They've written several tweets about this, such as a diaspora, monolingual Latinx person, this is really important to remember.
Teresa,
I use Spanish in my
thank
books
you
a lot,
so
but I
much
use
for
it
the
in ways
10.
I'm used to. Little phrases, familial words.
Okay. I gotta look at this. Teresa, thank you so much for the 10. Sejong Simp, thank you for the 4 months. They were caught in AI 4K 1080p. Actually, though, you want an example of someone caught in AI 4K 1080p? Every iteration of what then becomes Freydis Moon. As a diaspora, monolingual Latinx person, so this is Jupiter Wyse. Okay, so this is the identity Jupiter Wyse. This is really important to remember. I use Spanish in my books a lot, but I use it in ways I'm used to. Little phrases, familiar words, stolen piece of a culture and language I'm still learning and finding.
Stolen pieces of a culture and language I'm still learning and finding. We're out here fighting an industry where our existence debated at every single turn and getting mad about us injecting our language and identity into our own creative endeavors? Yeah.
Wait, I hate books written by Latinx Hispanic. Is that a common example of bigotry here? Like, I've never heard a racist person say, I hate books written by Latinx Hispanic authors. Who the fuck says that? Find me a racist who has said this. This, not only is Jupiter Wyse, aka Freydis Moon, aka Brooklyn Ray or whatever, making up different identities, they're also making up racism. They're also making up like obstacles to success for people who are Latin authors. We're out here fighting an industry where our existence is debated at every single turn, and getting mad about us injecting our language and identity into our own creative endeavors. Yeah, bet the view is nice from your high horse. I'm crying. They lied because they thought it sounded cool or something. They're like, you know what? I'm gonna fabricate this prevalent issue of racism and respond to said fabricated prevalent issue of racism.
Bet the view is nice from your high horse. You ever meet an ally who is so passionate about their allyship that they become the race that they defend themselves? Because clearly they were really just going through all of the same talking points that people of color have, but co-opting it for their own purpose, whether it was for social media clout or whatever. But they also used this as an opportunity to participate in a Twitter pitch event that was exclusively for Latinx authors who were seeking agents. If you aren't part of writing Twitter, basically pitch events are for for authors to pitch their manuscripts in the hopes that agents will be able to see it by going through the hashtag and seeing the different pitches and blurbs about the manuscripts. This is essentially a way for authors to be discovered on social media. So Jupiter was one of those people that says, also want to note that I participated in hashtag Latinx pitch the day before Tara offered me rep. I got on the phone with some amazing agents and the reception to my weird gothic dark academia blew my mind. I'm so thankful for all the resources I've stumbled into via book Twitter. In their Twitter bio, they also identified as QTPOC, which typically means queer trans person of color. And that was definitely not the labels that they called themselves when they were Taylor. They also devoted an entire thread to talking about diversity in paranormal books and how this genre is so often whitewashed. And the whole irony of that is so baffling. I am begging agents and editors to stop saying they want diversity in one breath and then bad-mouthing vampires / werewolves / paranormal in the next, especially if you're gonna say, unless it's from another place, diaspora authors exist. Let us write campy paranormal, please. Black vampires in Los Angeles don't have to be tied to African mythos. Just let them be cool city vamps. Latinx werewolves don't have to be tied to South American legend. Just let us write normal ass werewolves. Your white clients got the chance. Now make room for us. If I had $1 for every time an agent or editor said, I don't want vampires or werewolves or
in case you missed the beginning of this saga, this is a white person, by the way. This is a white author who has been faking these various identities. And that is what makes this so fucking insane. Your white clients got the chance. Now make room for us.
fairies unless they're ethnic, I wouldn't need a day job. Anyway, be mindful. Paranormal is not overdone. It's just been whitewashed to death. And that's not our ding-dang fault. So beyond co-opting social justice language to roleplay as a person of color, they also really narrowed down on this new identity by using dark-skinned emojis, choosing a dark-skinned avatar, and posting content that implied that they were culturally Latinx, like a shot of this abuelita hot chocolate and a photo of their face that is covered by a sugar skull bandana. They wrote this one tweet where they said, writing a script where a vendor hollers chili chili mango, and boy do I miss the squat happy man with the greatest mustache of all time who sold fruit outside Santee Alley. Always gave me extra salsa, always had the freshest fruit on the block. They also were a co-writer for a book about immigration and Latinx culture with another writer who is of genuine Latinx identity. And this person tweeted, some of you might recollect that I have been working for the past months on the development of a graphic novel with Jupiter Wyse, who has been outed as a white person pretending to be Latinx.
Oh my God.
With me, an actual Latinx person. So not only have they faced several accusations of being racist, they went on to pretend that they were a Latinx person.
Also, I'm sorry, but I have to go back to this for a second. Writing script where a vendor hollers chili chili mango, and boy... I love how this is painted as like some lovely memory, some nostalgia here, and it's just a white person being racist. Where vendor hollers chili chili mango. Oh boy, does this remind me of home.
I have been working for the past months on the development of a graphic novel with Jupiter Wyse, who has been outed as a white person pretending to be Latinx, with me, an actual Latinx person. So not only have they faced several accusations of being racist, they went on to pretend that they were a Latinx person, therefore taking opportunities away from actual Latinx people, from these pitch events, from being nominated for awards for books by Latinx authors, even as going so far as to lie to their agent, who tweets, I recently found out my client Jupiter Wyse lied to me about their identity. Long story short, when I offered rep and they didn't want to speak by video because of dysmorphia, I wanted to respect that. I'm a huge advocate for mental health and personal security. I would never
see, this is called weaponizing mental health. This is called preying on the goodness of people who are trying to be respectful. And in this modern age of ours, where we've had a lot of we've had a lot of progress in talking about mental health and, in destigmatizing things. And this is a perfect example of how you weaponize it.
violate my clients by forcing them to do something they weren't comfortable with. Unfortunately, that also gave Jupiter/Taylor the perfect opportunity to lie to me, not only about who they are, but about their publishing history. Never once did the names Taylor Barton or Brooklyn Ray come up when I signed them. I'm heartbroken and shocked by this. Thank you to all the people who reached out to me and brought this to my attention. I have terminated my partnership with them. So that's basically what happened a couple years ago. Now let's go back to present day. In 2024, the year of more bullshit, we go back to Elle Porter, the writer who was also a friend of Freydis Moon, who put together a Google Doc with evidence that links Freydis Moon to Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse. And you know shit is serious when there is a Google Doc. Again, all of this is linked in my description below, but I will go ahead and summarize it for you. So the first time that Elle Porter had ever heard of the names Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse was back in 2021 when there was an account on Twitter that accused Freydis of being Taylor/Jupiter. This account says, "We believe Taylor Barton's masquerading in brownface again as Hunter Taylor/Stacey Anthony on Instagram and Freydis Moon on Twitter." In their thread, they included evidence like a photo that was posted on Stacey's Instagram, which was also located in the same geographic area as Taylor Barton. And like with Jupiter Wyse, these accounts appeared seemingly overnight and only in the wake of Taylor Barton being chased off of Twitter under their own name. But the content and the style of the Stacey Anthony Instagram account matches previous accounts run by Taylor Barton. Some other photo evidence includes Stacey Anthony showing a picture that has a circular wooden table and light carpet underneath. This matches the same wooden table and light carpet that Brooklyn Ray has posted before. There's also a black hat on a gray carpet appearing both on Jupiter and Taylor's and Brookline's old Instagram accounts with Stacey's Instagram account. Freydis Moon also claims to be a Pisces, but they celebrated their 30th birthday in August, whereas Taylor Barton was born in August of 1991. But a lot of these things could just be coincidence, and that's why a lot of people had come to the defense of Freydis, including Elle Porter at the time. And it makes sense because Freydis had built these years of friendships with other writers and readers in the community. They established themselves to be a trustworthy person. And so when this accusation came out, they tweeted, "This is not me. My legal name is Daniella." That can be confirmed by at least one critique partner/beta reader. I don't know what to say. I'm heartbroken to have been targeted like this, but I don't know Taylor Barton or Stacey Anthony. Freydis would continue to insist that they had nothing to do with these aliases, as shown in these screenshots from private Discord conversations where they said, "Some of the people in my network..."
Who the fuck is this person? The Zodiac Killer? Could be.
"Like you, I've been talking to for years. How could I possibly construct such a devious plot to create some weird empire or cult while catfishing as a whole white person? I wish I knew a single person who has read Taylor Barton Mars Lies or whatever so they could tell me our writing is different at this point, because I don't understand why this is still ongoing in the YA community. I don't even write YA. I have no YA critique partners." And so it seemed like these accusations were swept under the rug because they're...
It's the same thing with Kate Crane, of course. And then it all comes out.
There wasn't that much evidence, and like Freydis said, who could possibly put in that much effort? That would be cuckoo bananas. Right. But then this year, in March of 2024, Freydis posts in a private author server with about 30...
I also love when you find out that it is that person, like that person is guilty of what they've been accused of. And it's always an admission. It's always like a recognition that what they're doing is bad or is crazy. So Freydis Moon being like, who would even put in that much effort to maintain these various fake identities? That is the person themselves admitting that it's an insane amount of effort to do something like this.
Other people mentioning that they were starting a new book. They proceed to post 2 snippets from the book that they're working on. Elle Porter, upon reading this, was immediately struck by the familiarity that they encountered, because in 2022, Elle Porter had actually been sent an incomplete draft of a story that was written by Jupiter Wyse called Never Say Die. This was sent to them by someone who used to be close to Jupiter. So they went back and looked at the manuscript from Jupiter, and then they compared it to this new manuscript from Freydis Moon, and they start to see the similarities. So here's a side-by-side comparison where on the left side you can see Freydis Moon's manuscript, which they claim to be something new that they're working on, versus on the right side Jupiter Moon's manuscript. The first few sentences are different, but if you look in the last few sentences of the first paragraph, you can see the similar lines here. Fitness junkies sneered at the bumpy trail and complained to their friends over post-workout juice brunches about forestry maintenance and where do my taxes even go, and it's not that good of a burn anyway. No one worth a damn swatted their way through through the trail's spindly branches unless they were looking for a place to get off, get well, or get worse. But he certainly hadn't lugged a backpack full of store-bought pig's blood and freshly plucked doe feathers to the cliff for nothing. It's not even a matter of similar styles of writing. It is word for word the same specific phrases that are being used. The person who sent the original manuscript from Jupiter also sent another manuscript from Jupiter called Astaroth, and this can be proven when you look at Jupiter's old Twitter bio where they said that their current work in progress was a book called Astaroth. So now that L. Porter has this other manuscript called Astaroth, they went ahead and checked every document that Freydis had ever sent them, including an unpublished story that was sent back in 2023. And so now here's another side-by-side when you look at the opening chapters of Astaroth with Freydis's work in progress. So if you look at both versions of chapter 1, they start off exactly the same way. Briar was bought on a Wednesday. Heat poured through vents in the ceiling, tempering the indoor climate despite the midwinter freeze outside. Unfortunately, the artificial air did nothing to dry his sweat-slicked palms. This moment was a reckoning. And then I could go on, but literally the first chapter is exactly the same. Like
every time I see writing by these kind of writers, I feel like fucking Shakespeare about my writings. Yeah, I mean, I think in the Kate Crane example, her best writing was in the Discord messages that she had faked. There's a lot of authors out there, but just because you're an author who has written a book or even has published a book does not mean that your writing is good. See Colleen Hoover, for example.
Out loud just now could be replicated for both versions of this manuscript. The same thing could be said for chapter 2 of both versions. They both start off exactly the same way, the same character names, with the same specific wording. Like, it's not even paraphrasing at this point. It is word for word the exact same thing. These patterns continue forward for chapters 3, chapters 4, and who knows how many other chapters there are out there, but like, you pretty much get the point. And then in the slim chance that this could possibly be plagiarism, L. Porter went further ahead by looking at the metadata associated with both Jupiter's and Freydis document files. So for those of you who don't know, basically any file that you have on your computer has metadata, including your Microsoft Word file. You can look at this by just right-clicking on the file and looking at the document properties, and then you'll see things like when the document was last saved, who the previous owner was, and this is where Elle found out
they got
that
the metadata.
In both versions of these manuscripts, the author's name said Taylor Brooke. So they decided to confront Freydis privately about the similarities that they found. They shared their conversations in their Twitter thread here, where they basically pasted screenshots of the word-for-word manuscripts shared between both versions. Freydis wrote, "That's ... eerie. Who did you get this from? I deleted my short off Tumblr years ago. It was a fanfic, but that's lifted. What the fuck?" L. Porter, who also goes by the name M, says, "I can't say who forwarded it to me, but the author who originally sent it was Jupiter Wyse." To which Freydis Moon replies, "Who is that? Wait, is that the fucking... Okay, wait, is that the Taylor Barton pen name person? Is that why people thought I was
all looking
them?
for the person who did this.
I don't need to have an ego about this, but did that person legit scrub my fanfic? I'm so confused and I don't know what to do. Should I, like, make a statement or something? I feel like I've already done that. I mean, at this point, I'll just trunk both those stories, I guess, and keep working on my other stuff. They were old anyway, but it feels extra weird to just have this come back over and over again. It just feels violating at this point.
This would be, yeah, this is Scooby-Doo. This would be like in Scooby-Doo. They unmask the bad guy, the villain. The villain looks around and is like, "Oh my God, can you believe that guy? Can you believe that guy did it? Oh, should I make a statement or something?" They're like, "It's you. It's you. There's no one else. It's all you."
Like, kind of pissed, honestly. I don't know this person, and now I want to find them and sue them. I don't think I could. But now I know why they were sued before, for plagiarism. Something that is odd about their reaction is that they just immediately decided that they would abandon their stories. They didn't ask to receive Jupiter's manuscript so that they could personally verify it themselves, or just even out of curiosity, because theoretically, if you found out that another person had plagiarized your work, wouldn't you want to see everything that they tried to do? Instead, they were just like, "Oh man, this sucks. Anyway, I guess I'll just move on." The only thing that they asked about was who sent L. Porter the manuscript in the first place. In order to prove their innocence, they also sent a screenshot to M that shows their recent contract with Bethany, who is their agent, to prove that Bethany had...
Okay, real quick. For those who might be lost because you weren't here for the beginning, we are covering book talk drama of an author who's been exposed as a white person who has made up multiple identities where they have pretended to be trans, Latinx, I forget what Freydis Moon claims to be, but they have assumed these identities that are not theirs and have used those identities in their writing and in their career. And every time they've been found out, they move on to a new identity. And the latest one is Freydis Moon, where a bunch of authors started to put together the pieces again using evidence like astrology, and discovered that Freydis Moon are these previous authors who were that's all the same person. And they are now confronting Freydis Moon in Discord messages. And Freydis Moon is like, wow, one of the evidentiary pieces they used was showing how the manuscript was the exact same that this Taylor Barton had written and that Freydis Moon had written word for word. And now Freydis Moon is like, should I pursue legal action? I've been plagiarized. Should I make a statement? I wonder what's going on. I did put this on Tumblr years ago. I wonder if someone lifted it.
Know their legal name in order to advocate and sign for them. However, this claim is a little bit muddy because agents and publishers don't necessarily require you to show your legal identification. So with everything that's been uncovered, especially the metadata, L. Porter was convinced that Freydis was truly Taylor Barton and Jupiter Wyse, especially since they also knew that Freydis has a habit of creating alternate accounts under alternate names. Case in point, one of their alter egos was someone named Saint Harlowe. This is proven from a private conversation where they shared a tweet by Saint Harlowe, and Freydis Moon replied, "Keep my secret, tell no one, but that is me." The reason why Freydis being behind the account for Saint Harlowe is particularly damning or ironic is because Saint Harlowe was this Twitter account that basically called out an agent for bullying people within the community. This agent's name was Cardigan, and Cardigan was someone that talked a lot of shit about other authors. One of the most egregious examples of the ways that Cardigan was talking shit about other authors was this one conversation that they went on about an author that hadn't been published yet, but they were working on a manuscript that was about whales, and Cardigan, along with other people that were in the Discord, were making fun of that author for being passionate about whales and then making fun of their bisexuality. It is extremely common for authors to talk shit about other authors, but what made the situation with Cardigan a bigger conflict was the fact that Cardigan had recently been promoted to be an agent. So people were concerned that Cardigan would abuse their powers as an agent. So that's basically the summary of what went down with Cardigan. And one of the people that had called out Cardigan was Saint Harlowe. I think calling out bad behavior is perfectly fine, but the fact that the person that led this whole campaign turned out to be Freydis Moon with their history just adds like a whole layer to it, especially when the Saint Harlowe persona was super aggressive to a bunch of other people in the book community. But it serves more as a contrast to Freydis Moon, who had a persona that encouraged you to be supportive and kind to other people. So it seems like the Saint Harlowe persona was a way for them to get away with being aggressive and mean to other people. Another thing that Freydis did while juggling the Saint Harlowe persona was they would be friends with a person, but with the other persona be enemies to them. And I think that was like a way to keep tabs on this person. So one of the examples was posted by MJ Huntsgood, who was another writer in the community, and tried to share how they were manipulated. And that was when Harlowe attacked them and was like, no, you were complacent. And it just added more fuel to the fire. Anyway, so MJ Huntsgood shares some screen.
I feel like this could have been a 20-minute video. How? She's going through the timeline of things. We haven't even gotten through all of it.
Shots in these.
It's not like
chats.
she's repeating things.
Tells MJ, I saw you and Saint kind of got into it. Hopefully that was resolved. And I've also seen a bunch of people deactivate. Hopefully everyone is okay. I did find your interaction with Saint to be a bit odd, but I think everyone is just really sensitive right now. I was glad to see you apologize. You had no problem going after Saint. I think this is a moment to think of the why and how. There's a conversation where MJ says, hey, Saint blocked me. Is everything okay? Or are they just protecting their peace? Freydis replied, I have no idea. I know they went private after people started tone policing their tweets. Saint very validly pointed out you'd mentioned protecting your reputation while others spoke up and took the fall. I feel like things like that are making this whole thing very ... hard to navigate for people who were brutally and publicly ridiculed by Cardi's clique. So basically when the whole situation with Cardigan happened, Harlowe would be super aggressive against MJ and basically blame them for a bunch of stuff. And then MJ would go towards Freydis Moon and be very vulnerable to this person, not knowing that Freydis was actually Harlowe. This is some devious shit right here. This person truly took a look at Kate Corain's situation with making up that fake alter persona named Lily, and they were like, I can do you one better. And then to add to the messiness,
that's a hold my beer
Moon
situation.
Has now been exposed, Cardigan resurrects themselves from the dead. They reactivate their Twitter and they say, no one will see this since I'm a new account with no followers, thanks partially to Freydis, but I never made a statement about what happened to me. Freydis openly admitted to stalking me from afar. They spread heinous shit about me and allowed others to do so as well. Cardigan then goes on to tweet a very long thread about how they were canceled and pushed away from Twitter because of Freydis and their manipulation, their games, and how Cardigan was forced to apologize for their screenshots even though the screenshots were altered. So basically they're blaming the reason why they were ran off of Twitter and canceled and dogpiled on Freydis/Saint Harlowe, to which other people replied to Cardigan's thread and were like, no, you're still kind of a shitty person. Like, you legit were a bully to other people. Plus, Cardigan claimed that the screenshots were altered. However, they don't share their own screenshots, which is something that they could have done to easily disprove it. So their attempt with trying to go back to Twitter and write off the coattails of Freydis being canceled and run off of Twitter was not successful, because everyone was like, you know that we can find more than one person shitty, right? So they went ahead and deactivated again. And same thing for Freydis Moon, who also is no longer on Twitter. And I just feel like all these people who keep on creating new accounts because they can't resist the lure of Twitter need to be put on an island somewhere and just have all their alter egos fight each other. We need Kate Corain and all their other fake accounts. We need Cardigan and all their other fake names that they've had. And we need Freydis Moon to just all duke it out together and leave the rest of book Twitter alone. You would think by now I'm done sharing Twitter threads, right? I am actually not, because there's a separate Twitter thread about Freydis Moon. This one was made by a writer named Anna
like
Sacco,
entering the
who
bullshit
provides
verse.
further proof of all the different aliases that Taylor has going on. So they said, once in a while, I Googled Tay Stallion, which was one of Taylor Brooke / Taylor B. Barton / Brooklyn Ray's Twitter handles. I got a hit recently. So they share a screenshot from Social Hiker where you can see, despite having the same username as Taylor, this person is named Hunter Lewellyn. And the picture of this Hunter person matches the same picture as Taylor Brooke in this old article back when they published The Ninth Life. Anna then goes on to say that if you search for Hunter Lewellyn author, you get hits for authors published by Llewellyn Books. Llewellyn Books seems to be a publisher name as well, this time with 2 L's at the beginning. Anna also discovered that if you look up 2 books by Freydis Moon that are older and out of print on Walmart, you can see in the information about the older edition, the publisher is named Hunter Lewellyn. Anna then searched up Hunter Lewellyn in Oregon because that was the state where Taylor had lived at some point, and they found an address under the company name Cordelia Lynne. The address for this company name leads to a strip mall instead of an actual address, and the company contact is Hunter Lewellyn. So that means that there's a business name out there called Cordelia Lynne, which is managed by Hunter Lewellyn, who happens to be headquartered in the same state where Taylor once lived. If you search up the name...
Why does it feel like she's just picking all these names? Because these were all names that, like, she wished she had been named. She's like, oh, I really love the name Cordelia Lynne. I'm going to make an identity of Cordelia Lynne. I really love Brooklyn Ray. Like, it's cute. It's sumptuous.
Cordelia Lynne, you can also see that there is
Brooklyn
the Lynne
Ray.
Agency, which is a boutique literary agency based on the West Coast. And this is an agency that lasted for a few months before Lynne vanished completely. A possible reason for this could be due to this Twitter thread where someone had asked why Cordelia Lynne disappeared, and another person replied that they got an email from Writers Beware and seemingly immediately deleted after. They found out that her name was a registered business name as opposed to a real name, but was listed under another name that seemingly doesn't exist. Lynne claimed it was their husband, but both Cordelia Lynne and said register's name either are made up or they went hard purging all personal info from the internet. Writers Beware is basically an organization that acts as a resource to make sure that there aren't bad practices within the publishing industry. So it seems that this organization had reached out to this mysterious agency by Cordelia Lynne, and that spooked off whoever was behind the agency. Something to also note is that in July 2023, Freydis announced their Twitter was being taken over by a publicist. That publicist was named Cordy, which could be short for Cordelia. Announcement: I'm excited and nervous to officially hand over the reins to my Twitter and TikTok, but it's time. This account will be managed by my publicist very soon. I'll still be around, but all posts and engagement will be relayed by my team. P.S. Be nice to Cordy. She's an A+
so
industry pro who will be
this.
acting on my behalf. This publicist disappeared at the same time that Cordelia Lynne also disappeared, and so when someone asked Freydis, was this just completely out of the blue, Freydis replied, entirely. I guess she's had a family emergency and I'm sending her good vibes. I can't help but be a little worried for her other clients too, though. So Anna deduces that Cordelia Lynne, the business name / agency, Stacey and Cordy, the publicist for Freydis, were likely the same person. And again, they were a business filed by Hunter Lewellyn that lives in the same town as Taylor, and that Hunter Lewellyn was listed as a publisher for 2 of Freydis Moon's books. Anna also notes that there is an author out there named Bailey Greene,
It's
who
a web
was a
of
new
white
author
women.
with a book about a demon who buys
It's a web of like astrological white woman type names.
angel at an auction, which is a similar story that one of the aliases for Freydis had talked about before. And this book was previously published by Brooklyn Ray. And so the book title by Bailey Greene is called Of Fire and Feathers. But then when you look at the metadata for that book title on Amazon, you can see both the names Bailey and Brooklyn showing up. So basically this person just has multiple aliases and multiple stories, and they kind of just juggle between all these different things. And I guess on the side at some point they were also an agent. The sad thing is it looks like that this fake agent had tricked at least one writer out there before, because POV, you wake up and find out that the fake agent you signed with last July, who then dropped you and left the industry and disappeared from the internet, ended up having multiple pseudonyms and also was pretending to be a Latina author when she was definitely not that. So basically there's just a giant web of all these fake personas, and every time this person gets caught, they just start over with a new persona, and it's probably gonna happen even after this video gets posted, and maybe they'll do it for the rest of their lives because this seems to be like a full-time job for them. One thing you might wonder is why did they choose to be a Latinx author specifically? And aside from the obvious reasons of every time a white person disguises themselves as a person of color so that they can get what they perceive to be a privilege or an advantage for the diversity points, another reason could possibly be due to their weird beef that they have with Aiden Thomas, who is a Latino American author. Because in one of the private Discord conversations that Freydis had, someone had mentioned that they were reading Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. They weren't really vibing with it. They thought the Spanish was fine and that it was kind of annoying when it feels like the Spanish is repeated in English in the next sentence. To which Freydis replies, "Oh yeah, the Spanish is fine. It's the author pretending to be poor that rubs me the wrong way," and a lot of other stuff. He's a millionaire, doesn't need the support, but sure pretends to. Anyway, I'm happy for him, TBH, and I'm glad people like his book, but every time Exodus gets comped to it, I want to eat through my floor and become a mole person. In another
you wouldn't know
screenshot,
anything
Freydis
about
also goes on to
pretending.
say, "I can't help but wonder if this Latine pitch party is exclusively young adult because there's one really very, very monstrously rich and successful Latine author who is a YA prince." Rolling eyes emoji. There definitely seems to be some kind of resentment that this person has against Aiden Thomas. It seems even stranger that this person is brown facing to have a similar audience as Aiden Thomas does. Aiden also tweeted, "Fun fact, Stacey Anthony had their editor reach out to me for a blurb for their cosplay book that did indeed get published. I looked at it and immediately clocked them as Taylor and sent an email back with a..."
What if for movie night we watched the Lindsay Ellis video on the Megaverse book lawsuit? Very much same energy. I have not heard about that, but I need to look into that.
No. What gags me about this is you clearly don't like this person, so why are you trying to get a blurb from this person? Like, if you're gonna be a hater, own up to it. Anyway, now that all of this has been known in the writing community, there are a couple of consequences that have resulted, including the editor of the Devout Anthology, which Freydis used to be a part of, had to make an official statement that they will be working with their cover artists and formatters to remove Freydis Moon's contributions from the anthology. The agency that they signed with also made an announcement that they have dropped them. All right, editing Cindy here, popping in to add
what's
some
the
more
next
stuff that
identity?
came
'Cause
out
you know
after
they're not
I
done.
filmed this video. There have been some more announcements from organizations that were affiliated with Freydis Moon, like the Queer Indie Awards, who released a statement saying that they were going to rescind any of the awards granted to Freydis Moon in the past and disqualify any current or future pen names of that person in subsequent award years. Fake Crate, which is a promotional box company that was going to collaborate with Freydis Moon, also released a statement saying that they are officially cutting ties with this author. Anyone who ordered the box can get a refund, and even if they don't request a refund, Freydis is still not going to collect any of the profits from past sales. It's also been revealed that one of their aliases, Stacey Anthony, actually was agented, but that agent posted a tweet saying they actually parted ways a couple weeks ago and they are no longer represented by that agency. So this is the 4th time that they have been dropped with a 4th alias. It's kind of incredible that they managed to get 4 agents. You would think that with the skill that they had to get...
Are all these tweets the same person? Okay, no. So what it is there's like 10 to 12 different authors or authors, publicists, agents, but they're all the same person. So this Freydis Moon, who's the current iteration, is connected to all these other identities that they fabricated throughout the course of the last, I think this all started off in 2020, so 4 years.
Presented so many times that they would just focus on writing, but I guess the thrill of committing fraud was so much more enticing. Part of that fraud included altering contracts. So when they were sharing screenshots of their contracts to other people to prove that their identity was Daniella, it turns out that it was actually photoshopped. So they never actually revealed their legal names to anyone except for what I'm assuming to be the agents that they signed with. I know a lot of the comments are going to be asking how did this even happen. So I'm also going to link to a Twitter thread by Tess Sharp who explains that the idea that you have to give your ID for any job is not actually true. An agent/author relationship is not a job in the sense that you are thinking. It's a partnership and contractual agreement. We are taxed as freelancers, so we normally give social security numbers or EINs. You also technically don't need to show your face either. The publishing industry didn't really use Zoom until the pandemic. Tess Sharp had worked with her editor for 13 years, and they never saw each other on video until the 13th year. There is a great deal of professional trust that happens between an agent and author when they sign, but the verification process of tax ID, EIN, social security number, address, etc. should be enough for most normal situations, not the weird fraud ones. No one owes you transparency when it comes to a pen name. Sometimes someone cannot give you transparency about pen names. As a work-from-home writer, I have multiple books under pen names I do not own. I have signed NDAs that restrict me from sharing those names. Another reason you might not be able to claim your pen name is because contractually you can't because of no complete clauses. Again, I'll link to the full thread if you're interested in reading more about how pen names work, but they are absolutely an important part about the publishing industry, and they are there for a reason to protect marginalized people. So it's a shame that a bad actor took advantage of that. As for Freydis' response after they got exposed, they haven't been on Twitter. They actually deactivated their account around the same time that their friend M had originally asked them about the similar manuscripts to Jupiter. So it seems like they were already kind of trying to gear up to
Literally
take a step
Frank
away from Twitter for the sake
Abagnale.
of inner peace. And that's definitely what they seem to be talking about over on their Instagram, which is now private. However, before they privated their Instagram, some people were able to grab screenshots of what they said about the situation. When someone asked if Freydis was going to make a statement about the accusations, they said, "I will not be making a statement. I've seen the allegations. I'm not on Twitter for a reason, and I'll be moving on with my life. Those who believe the allegations can continue their support. Those who don't are always welcome here." Praying emoji in the brown skin tone.
The allegations of brown facing.
Next day, after that whole Twitter thread that exposed them happened, they carried on posting privately to their Instagram with a picture of their cat, and the caption says, "Missing my babies. About to hop on an airplane and head home after spending the last few days surrounded by family. Honestly, I can't wait to snuggle my cats, drink some tea, find a good yoga studio, and
Good night,
decompress.
Blight.
I've been thinking about a lot lately. How endurance is a hard-won quality. How ambition is subjective. How things that seem so monumental are actually quite small in the grand scheme. Myself, my work, the little people in my phone screen, the tiny career I cultivated in the tinier pool I'm floating in. Prioritizing peace is essential in an industry like this. So is implementing strict boundaries. If there's one thing that will not rattle me, it is the faith that I
mental
have in
health
myself.
bullshit.
I might be resting now, but I'll be back to work soon. Gideon spinoff and Dark Academia will likely be here in 2025. Sparkle emoji, hand heart emoji with the brown skin tone. What really gags me is that they just showed their hand in the background right there while using a brown skin tone emoji. Like, is that emoji supposed to represent your hands? Because it's actually a closer match to your cat. So I'm guessing with their new resolution of live, love, laugh, and drawing boundaries and focusing on their mental health and well-being, that maybe after being caught twice, they're trying to...
That's the thing. If you get caught for being a fraud, you just use that mental health language. I'm taking time away from the negativity to reset, to just surround myself by light and love. That's all you got to do.
Hope that maybe people will give them the benefit of the doubt this time. My question is, who the hell has the time for this shit? This is like over 10 accounts, and that's only the accounts that we know of. So for all we know, there's probably tons of others out there. Not only is this person making multiple accounts to talk to the same people, but having different dynamics with that person depending on whether they're an enemy or a friend, but they're also writing multiple books at the same time. I guess you gotta commend the ability to multitask, because I'm over here struggling to write my novel while balancing 2 jobs. Meanwhile, they're juggling multiple identities. So maybe I really need to get my shit together.
In all honesty, it is impressive that they are able to have a web of, Madam Web of lies and all these various identities when I can't even remember what I, had for dinner yesterday. I just always feel like this situation, the Kate Crane situation, situations where people spend so much time and energy fabricating shit. Why don't you put that into your work? Like for Kate Crane, who was so worried about the competition and her fellow authors, why don't you just put all that time and energy into being a better writer? Like, huh? I think about if I spent all this time just trying to sabotage other streamers rather than working on my own content, rather than working on just being a better streamer.
When it comes to time management, obviously this person's behavior
I think
is
they like
egregious
the
on so
thrill.
many
I don't
levels,
understand it,
because
to be
not only
honest.
does
It's
it
hard
whittle
to
down the
understand
trust that a writer could have in a community for
It's
other people.
Frogan, thank you for the raid. I hope you had a great stream. Great job at UCLA's campus the other night. As I have told my community repeatedly, it is so vital that we are documenting all of this because of the lies that are being spread by the powers that be. And it's hard to lie when we have documented evidence that is the opposite of those lies. So all of us who, everyone who, oh, I thought that was Farley, but no, he's in bed. Everyone who is participating in either these protests or, supporting from afar, we all got to keep the focus, and the focus is on what's happening in Gaza. Anywho, hearts, thank you for the raid. What's up, guys? We are we are almost done. Almost through watching this wild video by withcindy, who did a deep dive on insane book talk drama. If you're not aware, book talk is one of the most dramatic corners of Twitter, and there's always shit happening. I previously covered the Kate Crane book talk scandal. This one is a deep dive into Freydis Moon, who is a white author who for the past 4 years has fabricated up to at least 10 known identities, and has pretended to be trans, Latinx, BIPOC, and uses that, like they write as if that is their experience. It's not just pretending to be Latinx, so self-described, but it's writing as a Latinx person and, telling stories about like abuela.
Who maybe aren't able to show their real name or their real face on the internet. It also puts people who are using pen names under a bad light when they shouldn't be scrutinized. There are tons of reasons why writers
Hannah,
can use
thank you for the
pen names,
gifted.
but I think most specifically when it comes to the queer community, which
Sorry, book talk is TikTok. Book talk, it's all part of the same industry. It's the literary industry, the publishing and literary industry is full of so much drama, and especially the fantasy side. Like a lot of book talk drama comes from fantasy, from specifically fantasy authors, and book talk is fun to say, yeah. And then there's book Twitter, but it's all the same thing.
This was a part of. So many queer and trans authors have to use a pen name if they have to be in the closet for their own safety. When you have a bad actor that's employing the same techniques that people usually do to preserve their safety, it really muddles the whole thing. And what's really strange to me is that based on the excerpts that I've read through these screenshots, their writing seemed good. They had a lot of creative ideas. Their writing matched the quality that agents would expect, hence the fact that they got signed on by 3 different agents. So they clearly had the skills to make it in publishing, and they really could have had a fruitful career if they just weren't a shitty person. And I feel like it's not hard to be a shitty person. Literally all you have to do is just not open your mouth. Just shut up and write your damn stories, and like resist the urge to be racist or bully people. Like, I don't know why it's so hard that people cannot restrain themselves to do so. I think it's one thing for someone to be exposed to be shitty. That's just life. There's gonna be tons of mean people everywhere. everywhere. But it's another thing when that person is being exposed also turns out to be a white person pretending to be a different race. This is more than just one occasion now. And in fact, I'm sure there are multiple occasions of this historically and even today. And these are just the cases that we happen to know about and we haven't caught on yet. The reason why it's such a deeper insult for an asshole to pretend to be a person of color is because you know that they had to do that because they believed that if they were a person of color, they would receive some kind of advantage in whatever system they're trying to play. When you are a person of color, both in real life and on the internet, you're gonna deal with so much bullshit. But in the eyes of a white person like Freydis Moon, they didn't see those legitimate struggles that people of color face. Instead, they saw it as a way for them to climb a social ladder. I think also when you exist as a person of color on the internet, there's this desire for people to want to form communities or support one another when you see that they are in a marginalized group similar to yours. That kind of good faith has been taken advantage of by bad actors like Freydis Moon. And not only does this benefit them, it also puts actual people of color in a shittier position. It's a recurring problem for many authors.
Yeah, so I've said this before, but a girl who went to my my high school and is doing musical theater and is very successful in it. I have seen articles written about her about how she is Puerto Rican and Native American, and these articles being talking about how like, oh, the first Puerto Rican Native American actress on Broadway, blah blah blah. She's not. She's white. She's white and she just tans. So it's one of those things where she gets all the she gets the few I guess advantages there would be of having that as an identity where, ooh, look at you, you've broken down. Now to be fair, I don't know if she herself is pretending to be those things or if someone just reported on it and she never changed, like never corrected them. But I know also that her sister has leaned really heavily into the Native American thing, and the Native American percentage that I remember them being was low single digits. But their whole family used to tan a lot. They were like the one family growing up in Iowa who in the dead of winter would all just be so tan. It's like negative 20 degrees out, and her parents were gym rats and would tan in tanning beds, and then so did the girls. Anyway, but it's frustrating because when you're not a person of color, when you're not queer, you don't actually experience those hardships, those obstacles, and so to pretend that you identify, that's your identity, that's part of, your life experiences, then you get to claim those hardships, but you didn't experience those hardships. You can't use them as part of your writing and of your life.
Of color, but especially Latinx or Latina authors, to constantly be set at a disadvantage compared to their white peers who are having a much easier time getting publishing deals. Not only do they have to write a certain narrative in order to be published, but they also have to defend their cultural identity. They have to constantly defend having too much Spanish in their books or too little Spanish in their books. They have to fight to show the portrayals of their characters and do that delicate balance between what is a correct portrayal of a Latinx or a Latina character versus an incorrect portrayal. And those are just the complicated dynamics that you have to face as a writer of color. Like, you're never gonna be just evaluated for the story that you write. You're gonna be evaluated for the story that you write with your race attached to it. So the whole thing with Freydis Moon is so insulting because it's already so hard for people to break into both traditional publishing and indie publishing. Not to mention, because Freydis Moon is an indie author and they were more ingrained in the indie writer space, they also screwed over a lot of their indie writer peers. There are indie authors out there who now have to go back to their manuscript, scrub out the blurb that Freydis Moon gave to them, remove that from their interior pages, remove that from the cover, remove that from any marketing pages they have online. For those indie authors that have already gone far enough along the production process, that's going to be extra money for them to have to go back and fix all of that. Indie authors are already taking money out of their own pocket just to publish their book. So this is just a really shitty situation for everyone all around. I think we really need to acknowledge that white queer people are really good at co-opting social justice language on the internet and using that to their advantage. When I talked about the Kate Corain situation in my video, a lot of people were giving me shit for making this about white women or about white queer people. They were saying, why are you making this about white people? Kate Corain is just one person. Don't have her represent all of them. Lo and behold, this is not the first or the second time that a white queer person in the writing community within the frame of like half a year has been trying to grift everyone and pretend to be different personas and try to use their different levels of oppression, real or imaginary, in order to gain an upper hand. Because the thing about a lot of white queer people is that they are familiar with the language of being an ally, because they see the type of posts that you make when you defend yourself as a person of color, and they know how to use that for their own advantage. They know how to take your place as a marginalized person by using their own experiences and their own observations as an ally in order to take your position that they secretly but very desperately want. And a super important skill that they know is how to play the victim, because I guess on the internet that is how you get ahead, by painting others as a bad guy and you're just the victim, and therefore you deserve all the accolades for that. The similarities that these people have is that they were so eager to take someone down. They were counting on whatever identity that they fabricated and the good faith of other people that they befriended to help them dogpile on whoever they didn't like as a way to take the other person down on the internet, because I guess this is like their full-time job. And I feel like this should be a lesson to people who constantly get surprised every time someone gets revealed to be a bad actor, that maybe we should be a little bit more careful around other people who seem to constantly get involved in drama. And the thing is, this is not going to be the last time we see this person.
Have I seen Worst Person in the World?
We're probably going to see many people who are just like Kate Corain or Cardigan or Freydis Moon. The difference is that they're just going to have different aliases and different names. This is inevitable. They are not going to stop because they literally have nothing else going on in their lives. So they're just going to keep on doing this over and over again. And I feel like at this point, after the first, second, third time that's happening, I think a lot of people on the internet, but especially the writing community and book Twitter, need to just be a little bit more wary about this kind of stuff and just be careful with not easily believing whatever a random person on the internet says. But I think we have to acknowledge the reason why Freydis Moon created so many different accounts under different names, and that's because despite it being very understandable why people may have pen names or internet pseudonyms, it's also, on the flip side, incredibly easy to try to maintain control or change the narrative about something when you hide behind an anonymous account. There's a lot of power imbalance that happens between a person on the internet who shows their face, shows their actual name, versus someone who exists on the internet but doesn't show their actual name or their face. It makes it very easy for that person to say whatever they want about another person, like in the case of Freydis Moon, who was randomly bringing up Aiden Thomas and saying that this person was a millionaire and Aiden was just pretending to be poor. It's incredibly easy to weaponize your bad faith takes about a person or attack someone's character without actually risking anything about yourself, as long as you hide behind a fake name and a drawing of you. Because of course you can just claim that you're a person of color and that you know what you're talking about. Of course you can just pretend that your criticism of an author or another person on the internet.
Honestly, the race faking wouldn't work if there weren't so many people looking for tokens and stereotypes and nothing more. Yeah, I think for she's cooking, I know. I think for people like Freydis Moon, aka Brooklyn Ray, aka I don't know, all the other fucking identities, they look at marginalized people like people of color, okay? Because I think this author is queer, so they've got that, all right. They've got the queerness, but they go, I need to build. I need to build this whole castle of ways that I have been oppressed, even though I haven't been, because it actually then will be to my benefit to be a part of, to be a part of as many marginalized communities as I can be, so that I am special, because it's this white person's brain looking at authors of color and looking at marginalized people online and thinking that they get attention for being marginalized. It's like a backwards way of understanding. No, the reason that that marginalized people have been able to garner like big communities online is because they're like leaders, is because they are marginalized and they are using their voices to try and break through the walls of marginalization, and they've gained support that way. And so a white author like Freydis Moon sees that and is like, that's the support I want. That's the following that I want. That's the reverence that I want, of people thinking that like that's me. It's really hard to explain, because it's hard to understand if your brain doesn't think this way. They want deeper intersectionality so that people find them more special. Yeah.
Comes from good faith and that you have no actual personal beef with them. That's how it is for a lot of people who don't have to show their faces on the internet or reveal their actual race. I'm not saying that people need to reveal all their personal information, because that should not be expected of anybody, especially when it comes to their personal safety. But I think that we need to practice online literacy when you see someone who is constantly pretending to be the expert of something or trying to take.
This is the wokest stream ever. This is the wokest stream ever. How is this the wokest stream ever? Please explain.
Another person
Go
down.
on.
And of course, I'm really just saying
I'm
all this
sleepy.
when in the future it becomes my
I don't
turn
feel
and
pretty
another person
awake
called
right now.
Moon Chan tries to spread slander about me, but they say it's okay because they're Asian or something. Who the fuck knows? I haven't run into this person, but they keep on regenerating again like a terrible villain in a video game, so I'm sure I'll run into them again, as will you, and who knows, you might even become friends with this person. If there's really any lesson to take away from this, though, it's a lesson that all writers of color should remember. The idea of imposter syndrome and constantly questioning how valid you are in your cultural identity should be irrelevant. You don't gotta worry if you're Latin enough, Asian enough, Black enough. Who cares?
This shit's
if
too
you're not
woke.
gonna stand up to claim your cultural identity, I guarantee you another white writer out there will do that for you. So let this be a lesson for writers of color everywhere to uphold yourself with the same confidence as a white writer trying to catfish as you. Now, before I end this video, I want to take this time to shout out a couple of trans, Latina, and Latinx authors out there. One of them is gonna be, of course, Aiden Thomas, who really has probably dealt with so much crap behind the scenes. They're probably one of the most well-known
I just want to say, if you want more details for this, you'll actually for me to connect you to organizer. You get hold me on Twitter. I'm gonna go to bed, so I get ready to march. Yes, thank you. Good luck tomorrow.
Monster-ravaged world. It's a young adult story about these characters have to face down these gods in order to save their friends.
And have a good night.
So if you're looking for coming-of-age stories featuring trans characters, they are definitely the author to check out. The most recent
this stream is
the pleasure of checking out was Gabe Cole, because they released their debut
this stream
year.
is so goddamn woke. We gotta go to bed.
Except instead of Elizabeth as a main character,
it's
the
late.
protagonist is actually a trans boy. I started this book already, and I think it is just
Terry,
so
thank you for the
I
5
think that
months.
It is such like a refreshing take on Pride and Prejudice, and I feel like it adds a whole new layer to the story, especially when so much of Jane Austen's stories was about subverting patriarchy.
No, it's not that it's late. I have to get up.
The main character, a trans
I have to leave for the
boy,
airport
so
at 4 a.m.
perfect
So
to really reflect
that's
the
daunting.
ways that even today we still continue to try
11
to
o'clock
subvert
is
societal
normally
norms.
early for
Another
me.
trans author to check out is Alex Crespo. They wrote a really cute rom-com called Queer Senora. Basically, if you are really into telenovela drama, then this is the book for you, because the main
So no
character
gaming.
here finds himself having to fake date his
No,
crush
I got a
in
lot
order
to
attend
do.
his quinceañera, which
Gaming
is like a
didn't
queer
happen
twist
this week.
to
I'm
a
sorry, you
quinceañera.
guys.
And then lastly, there's Camila Sosa, who is a transgender Argentine writer. She has a collection of short stories called
I failed
I'm
miserably on the
and
gaming
this
front. To
kinda
be fair, I was in
teeters
Austin.
between fantasy and reality. There's a lot
And
of
there was a
interesting
lot
stories.
going
One of
on.
them takes place in the 1990s. There's a woman who has to make a living as a rental girlfriend for gay men. There's another story
Where'd
about
you
a
get
group
the
of rugby
watermelon
players who have to
shirt?
haggle
This was a
over the
gift.
price of a night of sex, and in return they get what they deserve. So that just sounds like a
But
lot of
does anybody
juicy
remember the
revenge
website
that
where to get them?
I definitely want to check out. So I have this book added on my TBR. If there are any other trans Latine or Latinx authors out there, feel free to drop them in the comments. I feel like anytime situations like these happen, it becomes even more important to uplift a community where we actually know that these authors are the real deal and support the works that they put out, because
Yes,
Lord knows
true that.
they already go through with so much bullshit. I look forward to checking
Wait,
out your recommendations
give me my-
or
is
hearing
Mizkif
back
here?
if you do decide to check out these books.
I told you can have $66 of it exactly. You're lucky I didn't take more. Okay. You're lucky that I gave you some back because you stole the shoes that I bought. I bought those New Balance shoes and you yoinked them. You stole them from me. Just another example of a white man stealing from a woman of color. Look at that. You're gaslighting me so much. It was literally on stream. Everybody saw. Everyone knows. Classic. Just a white man taking what wasn't his.